Adolf? I don't know, ma'am. You've been seeming sus lately.
And we're back with Mark Herman's Churchill and a game of World War II for 3 players, up to 3 players, 1 to 3, that is, where we have to cooperate to defeat Germany and Japan. But we are competing to be the dominant country in the post-war world. So, last time we left, here, let me get this through, make a little edit here. We had finished the agenda segment, where we set the agendas and we have all the issues that we are about to debate in the middle. And so, it is time for our pal Sir Winston Churchill to pick up the narrative again and begin the first debates. As I had won the initial agenda skirmish, my ally to my left, Stalin, starts the discussion by having junior henchman Merkelov present their views on Poland's post-war borders. It advances the Paul Mill 1/3 issue towards their 2 space on the USSR trek. Merkelov is adept at this type of issue, so he receives an attribute bonus when he speaks on this topic, raising his normal 1 strength to a 2. And you can see this here, and obviously, your strategy is generally going to play to each card's strength on certain issues. So this is the Paul Mill issue, and he gets a 2 on it. So this goes over to the 2. And Roosevelt does not feel the need to debate the issue, and I reluctantly also abstain. However, Merkelov is MKVD, and the next Soviet presenter may find himself with a free ticket to the Gulag. So I guess you just put this card down here to remind you that you need a roll on the next card he plays. Next, Roosevelt brings up Japan by having General Stanley Emmerich present his views on the need for Soviet participation in the war against the Emperor by moving the USSR directed offensive, that one there, toward the American side of the table to the 3 space. That is, he's only worth 1, but he's doing a directive offense issue, so it's plus a 2 strength. So that will go over to the American side for 2. Or 3? Yes, 3. Like so. I support this, but Comrade Stalin objects and has Simeon Budonia, don't ask me how to pronounce some of these, pardon the slaughter here, lead the debate. The USSR is an enigma, and it is clear that under the surface there are complicated tensions. Budonia is visibly intimidated by Stalin's presence, right here. So while he gains a 1 to his normal 5 value in the debate, from the Soviet Nyet national characteristic, he loses 2 when Stalin is in his chair, that is active, for a net value of 4. The result has General Emmerich losing the debate on the USSR directed offensive by moving this issue from the US 3 space to the USSR 1 space. Despite this, Merkelov stares at Bedonier. This guy, this MKVD. Yeah, I was going to say something nasty, but I won't. And rolls a die for a potential purge. And the die roll comes up a 3. And Bedonier breathes a sigh of relief. It is clear that Stalin on his home turf is pushing very hard, but his decision to debate gives him the option to pass or play on his next turn, as signified by placing the marker on his discard pile. So this can come off now that we've taken care of it. Now it says to put it on your discard pile, but I'm gonna put it on. I would sit it on my deck and just have it on the ground. That way I know I have a pass. And just a quick note about the pass: the next time around you have to burn it. You can't save these. So if you decide not to pass, you will lose this. Just a note there. I decide that while my allies are distracted by the Pacific, I move to solidify my current leadership over European strategy. That's this one. By having the first Sea Lord, Admiral Cunningham, bring it up. And move the issue to my 4 space, 2 value plus 2 your leadership attribute, so 4. Soviets decided to preserve some of their staff for future discussion, and the Americans seemed content for the moment. Next, Stalin takes his opportunity for a pause by passing the discussion over to Roosevelt. Marker is removed from the discard pile. Okay, so he'll use up his pass and not take a turn, because when you run out of cards, everybody else gets to kind of walk all over you, so you got to be careful with your debate. William Wild Bill Donovan now brings up Eastern Europe and moves the 1-2-3 Palm Mill issue on the Soviet 2 space. That is correct. Even though a issue is on someone else's track, you can bring it up again and try to get it back. So it's the only time you ever lock in a victory is it gets all the way up to the top here, by the way. On the Soviet 2 space to the American 3 space, because it's the 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because of that. Okay. I certainly do not object, and surprisingly Stalin remains silent, which makes me nervous. Perhaps Stalin's other staff members are not his best. Time will tell. Once again, I have the floor, and I decide to take a bold move. I asked General Porter, who is well liked by the Americans, to continue the political military discussion, i.e. that one we just did. And he moves the Palm Mill 1-3 issue 3 spaces to the center of the table. 1 value plus 2 for any issue on the U.S. track. So you can kind of see the historical flavor here. This guy is well liked by the Americans, and so when something's on a U.S. track, he can have an influence on it. Interesting. Stalin smiles and says nothing. But then Frank Walker, Roosevelt's old friend, rises and says he is reading a letter with instructions from the president. That means we discard Walker to use Roosevelt in the debate. This is how you get your main leader, your big power guy, because it's obviously your most powerful card. You have to discard another card, just in case you're wondering. Okay, so I may have misjudged the situation, as Roosevelt, even when he's not in the room, is a force to be reckoned with. Yes, remember we have a situation there where, from the conference card, it says he cannot advance an issue, but he can still debate. And so Roosevelt is going to take this chance to debate here. Come on, focus. I'm having focus issues here today. I'm not sure why. Sorry. All right, Roosevelt instructs Walker to directly debate the issue with poor Portal sitting down. Roosevelt's letter ends any further discussion of this issue with the Palm Mill 1-3 issue moving to the American chair, capturing the issue. Oh, good. It gives us an example of that. Because it's 7 here. It's going to go all the way to the top here. That is no longer up for debate. Roosevelt has captured that issue. In a sidebar conversation, Walker informs me that Franklin was unable to travel due to illness, but he is recovering nicely. He passes health roll. Yeah, every time you use him, you have to roll a dice. And if you roll 2 or 3, Roosevelt dies. And you have to replace him with Truman. Okay. Stalin, seeing his chance, has Molotov bring up the global issue. You can see why. He has a 5 strength and he gets +1 on global issues. I'm sure Stalin wants once again to push for spheres of influence. The global issue is here, by the way. Or perhaps his opposition to the UN. No matter, this is a critical moment in the conference. Molotov is a competent orator and moves the global issue to the Soviet 6 base. Five plus the 1 global issue. The Americans, without the president at the table, decide to remain silent, but I cannot abide this situation. And realize that Molotov's strength is beyond any of my staff. At the conference, so I feel the need to personally intervene. I send off Admiral Pound. So remember, you have to discard a card if you're going to use your leader. So we discard him, and Churchill comes in. To preserve his strength, and I stand to speak. The Soviets yield, but only reluctantly, and global issue moves back 7 spaces to my 1 space. This small victory will give me additional political leverage after the conference. Churchill had to gain 1 political alignment marker. Political alignment markers are these little cylinders, and so he gains 1 just by discussing on a global issue. Get played on 1. Okay. At this point, I'm feeling a bit out of breath, and I roll a health roll to avoid a heart attack. I decide just to observe the remaining conference from the backbench as the situation continues to unfold. In other words, he passes the health roll, no heart attack. Okay, so that's his trouble. Every time you play him, you got to roll for a heart attack. Oh, by the way, I forgot. There's 2. Man, non-focusing is irritating me. They go from active to inactive, and you can actually flip the marker like that. And same here for Stalin. Oh, Stalin hasn't come in yet, has he? That was Franklin. Never mind. That was this guy. So, yeah. And I guess we don't even need that anymore. All right. Exhausted by the intense debate, the Americans pass, as do I, thus allowing Stalin to continue. Now, I should have put some pass markers on them. I forgot to do that when I was swapping out the leaders, but oh well. Okay. At this point, Gregory Malenkov leaves the room. That is discarded, and Stalin decides to speak. Okay. He latches onto the Pole Mill 2-2 issue, sitting up there on my side of the table, and moves it 7 spaces towards his side of the table, the 5 space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Without Roosevelt or myself available, no one in the room has the stature to take on Stalin. This gives Stalin additional clandestine leverage. Soviets gain 1 clandestine. Okay, here's the thing. This changed from the recent printing to the 3rd printing. He was upgraded to, he gets 2 clandestine network markers, which is the little plastic discs, like these. And yeah, so that is a rules change that I just read about. That should be 2. It's correct on the card. It's not correct in the playbook. My gaze is drawn to Stalin's expression. He has crazy eyes, and I see fear on his staff's faces. And then I see him visibly calm down, and the moment passes. That is, Stalin has a paranoid trait. You roll 2d6 on a 2 to 4, and all these staff cards are reduced by 1 strength. That's his paranoid trait. The Americans now have Henry Morgenthau, Secretary of Treasury, re-engage on the global issue. Moving it from my 1 space to the American 4 space. 4 value plus 1 for the global. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 actually. Yep. So it's the 4 space. Okay. But as my next delegation speaks, I decide to wait. But Stalin has Admiral Kuznetsov, apparently taking a break from the Washington Capitals, to debate the issue, moving from the American 4 space to the Soviet 1 space. 4 plus the plus 1 yet national characteristic. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over here. In addition, we are told of additional Soviet efforts to suppress fascist naval forces in the Arctic. Place a naval support marker in the Arctic theater. Yeah, that's easy. That would be 1 over here, but we can just flip it to the. Oh no, we can't. It's times 3. So if you flip it, it turns into 3. There's only 2 there, so we got to pull 1 out of the box here and add it. Okay. With my support, Clement Attlee brings up the global issue again. See, we were really fighting over this global issue. Yeah, and you might see why when we get it going here. Well, Clement and I often disagree because he is the labor leader. Here, without any objection from me, he brings the full weight of his abilities to the discussion. Note, Churchill is now inactive, so Attlee's negative attribute is not applicable. Churchill is still active. He's not. He moves the global issue from the one Soviet space to my 4 space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stalin decides to debate Attlee to gain his debate advantage using his last resource and foregoing his pass. Where is Stalin anyway? Oh, I thought Stalin was coming in. No, he's gonna bring in Zhukov. Okay. Stalin throws in his last staff member, Marshal Zhukov, to turn the tide. Georgy Zhukov stands to speak, but first he looks to Stalin. When you play this card, roll 1d6. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Yeah, he rolls a dice. Gets a 3, so his total strength will be 4. Because of the yet, his strong resolve is insufficient to fully overcome Attlee's well-reasoned discussion, but is sufficient to move the issue back to the center of the table, a net loss for me. However, Stalin has literally overplayed his hand and he's now bereft of further action. The Americans, sensing an opportunity, send their ambassador to Moscow, Averell Harriman, a man I deeply respect. Averell once again brings up the Pacific and moves the USSR directed offensive from the USSR 1 space to the US 4 space. 4 plus attribute plus 1 for issues on the Soviet track. And Churchill is active. Okay, there's an if or there. Okay, so that's going to end up where? On the US 4 space. Okay. I do not oppose the view, and Stalin is out of arguments. Sensing Soviet weakness, I send Ernest Bevin to bring up the Paul Mill issue on the Soviet side of the table. Paul Mill, 2-2 on the Soviet space. Soviet 5 space. Normally, Ernst could bring this issue back to the center of the table, but Stalin dislikes him and he falls a bit short of the goal of moving the issue to the USSR 1 space. 5 value minus 1 for issue on the Soviet track. Was that in focus at all? Ugh. Sorry about that. The last speaker. With Stalin out of staff, the Americans go for the jugular and send in the president's confidant, Harry Hopkins. Harry picks up the global issue again and moves it to the American 5 space. My last available staff is C, head of my intelligence service, and he is not equipped to discuss global issues, so I choose to abstain from the debate, and Stalin is out of cards. Okay, you can see that Stalin ran into the difficulty there of using up all his cards, and now, these two guys can have kind of their will of them, so you gotta really plan that out. The last speaker at the conference is C, Stuart Menzies. Well, I want to steer toward a Paul Mill issue, but I must move cautiously. Menzies' 4 value on Paul Mill issues, 1 value plus 3 for Paul Mill issues. Means that I cannot recapture the one on the US track, as it is in the 5 space, but the USSR Paul Mill issue is mine for the taking in their 1 space. Stalin glares at me, so I examine my other options. It is clear no matter what I do, the Americans have prevailed in the conference by winning 3 issues. 3? Seriously? Where did they win 3? Oh, 3. They captured this one way over here. So yeah, he's got 3. Okay. All right, so his thinking is, clear to me, no matter what I do, the Americans have prevailed in the conference by winning 3 issues to Stalin's, and by 1 issue apiece, kicking Stalin while he is down. may have longer-term implications for the war, while I can just as easily have Menzies discuss an additional Lend-Lease support from the Americans. U.S. production issue in the center of the table. And I assure them that I will use it to support Anglo-Allied Western Theater forces. I could just have easily captured USSR declares war on Japan issue, but if I did this, I would gain the enmity of both my allies, especially the Americans. I therefore choose Allied cooperation over pulp mill advantage, and I use Menzies to capture the US production issue with a value of 1, moving the issue to my 1 space. Okay, now, if you were going through all that, me rattling all that off, that basically meant when you're playing this 1 to 3 players, it's open negotiation, and none of the negotiations are binding any deals you make. So clearly they want a little push and pull, where Herman designed in a little push and pull. Hey, if you do this for me, I'll do X for you, because technically you're supposed to be allied to be winning the war. Okay, so we each gain control of the issues that have reached our chair and are on our respective tracks. The Americans have won the conference. Receive a conference VP marker. It looks like that, upside down. By controlling the global issue, the USSR directed offensive, and the Pulp Mill 1-3. Stalin is clearly miffed for having only captured the remaining Pulp Mill 2-2 issue, and assures me that he owes me one for not hurting him when I had the chance. I, on the other hand, have had a middling performance by gaining a U.S. production issue that is mutually beneficial to Roosevelt and myself. Plus, by retaining European leadership, I gain additional offensive resources for my Europe First strategy. Okay, that is the end of the meeting segment. And what will follow is called the decision segment, and that's where we take all these issues and we gather the resources and place them. Okay, but that'll be for next time. Tune in.